Good afternoon. I'm Anthony T. Wyatt. And today I'd like to talk to you about something I call a prisoner's ambition. We're not animals. But sadly, due to some deeply rooted beliefs about prisoners, I'm forced to stand here and remind you of this. Why? Because I'm a state prisoner, an inmate, a convicted felon. You see, each one of these terms is attached to an assumption that I'm going to attack you or violate you in some way. As prisoners, we're automatically presumed to be less than civilized and so less than equal. Less than equal and so less than worthy. A segment of the population undeserving of your respect and basic human rights because we're considered less than human. Now, I know it sounds extreme, but how else can we account for society's clear lack of concern for the incarcerated and the formerly incarcerated alike? Example, in social, political, even media and entertainment circles, there are dehumanizing jokes levied against prisoners every day that go unchecked. Jokes like, don't drop the soap. Look out for Big Bubba. Ignorance. No doubt connected to shows like Oz and Shawshank. Now I can go on for days about how these shows do nothing more than misrepresent our humanity, but I'd much rather address the larger issue at hand here. Since when is the rape or assault of any fellow human being funny? And more to the point, why are these jokes acceptable? Often that the reason why these jokes are accepted in our society is because they're directed at a dehumanized minority. And today, as part of that minority, I plan to take full advantage of this opportunity to clarify some general misconceptions that you may have about prisoners by offering a true account of a prisoner's ambition. Growing up, I heard all the same scared straight stories about prisoners that you all have heard. Our prisoners are the worst of the worst. They can't be trusted. They'll never change. Once a criminal, always a criminal, right? When I came to prison back in 1990, I got to see firsthand that prisoners were nothing like I had perceived them to be. I was a 140-pound kid in a men's prison with a brand new life sentence. Nobody tried to bully me or rape me or extort me. In fact, most of the people I met in prison are the exact opposite of bullies and rapists. See, as I see it, prisoners are a mixed bag of mentors that can be divided into two distinct types. Those who are content and those who are ambitious. As for the first type, the guy that we're all familiar with, he's the prisoner who is content. He's an opportunist. He sees a new face from the old neighborhood as a conduit to the streets. His only concern is who has to connect to the package. He hasn't grown over the years because he lacks ambition. And having lost hope for the future on the outside, he has made prison, this pseudo-reality, his everything. He's the closest thing to your stereotypical prison inmate. And if given the chance of freedom, he'll make it harder for the next prisoner to make it out. But let's talk about this next type of prisoner. The guy that we almost never hear about. He's a prisoner with ambition. He's a motivator. He challenges you to break away from negative influences and pushes you to be the best you that you can be. He encourages his fellow prisoners to stay connected to their families on the outside, learn about the law and the appeal process, seek out higher education, find a spiritual base, be it Christianity, Islam, Afrocentricity, or what have you. Most importantly, he encourages us to always show compassion for our fellow prisoners by not taking out our anger and frustrations with the system on them. These two types of mentors, mostly old heads, have been and continue to be the main influences in prison. But it's up to you to decide who you'll take counsel from. For me, it was the prisoners with ambition. These men, these motivators, they were fully aware of the years of hardship that I would have to endure and encouraged me to read because, as they put it, reading builds the imagination and reinforces the mind. So I read. the book of J, the Bible, the Quran, world history, black history, biographies, even how-tos. I studied all of the above, but for me, what resonated or rang most true was the Quran. Islam became my spiritual base, forming my relationship with God, Allah the Most High. And I didn't understand it back then, but these motivators, these men here, they were making sure that I was mentally prepared to endure the next 3 decades of my incarceration. See, unlike the prisoner of content, I wasn't confined mentally. I had always envisioned myself going home someday. And after 3 decades of fighting the good fight, I was blessed to have my life sentence overturned. My support system, my family, has always been in my corner. Lobbying for my release, driving for hours to come and visit me in prison, and always making sure I'm in good spirits. It's because of their love, motivation, and support that I felt confident enough to immerse myself in this rehumanizing effort. See, the objective of this talk today is to change the narrative about prisoners by focusing on these 2 types. So we have the content versus the ambitious. And let's be real. Most prisoners are here for committing crimes against family, friends, and community. But let's also acknowledge that some are family men who have made bad choices and are now trying their hardest to keep their families together from inside these walls. Sadly, some are stuck in their criminal ways and spend their years only thinking of the next big come-up. But there are a lot of men, like myself, who are truly ashamed, embarrassed, and remorseful about our past criminal acts. Because there can be no justice without balance. I offer that society should also be made aware of the efforts that we're making on this side of the wall to become better men. Men who make no excuses and take full responsibility for the choices we've made that landed us here. Men of ambition whose primary objectives are getting home to our families, rebuilding our communities, and earning your respect and your forgiveness. I'm not asking that we be rewarded for our efforts in the way of rehabilitation. Self-improvement is reward enough. What I do ask, however, is that you support us in this rehumanizing effort. You can start today by no longer showing support for those who would depict us in a way that overshadows the ambitious, while highlighting the inaction of the content. Again, I am Anthony T. Wyatt. Thank you, TEDx, for this opportunity.